Don't let this very divided vote divide us. Let's all work together now to choose the best person to take our project forward. Merci. Thank you. On continue.
48%. That's the best Tom Mulcair could do when his party was asked how many supported his leadership. No other major party leader in Canadian history has fared that poorly in an open vote. First time a party has actually turfed its leader. Other leaders have stepped down after poor results, but even they were always above 50%. In a moment, the insiders, but first, Andrew is here in Toronto. Chantal is in Montreal. We just heard Tom Mulcair from that speech yesterday after the vote saying, don't let the party get divided. How divided is the party and where are the divisions, Andrew?
Well, I think they're less divided over him than they are over much broader questions of direction. He got 48%, but I'm willing to wager a good proportion of the people who voted 48 not to have a leadership vote did so because they thought, well, we don't have to do it now, we can do it in 2 years. I think much more salient was the division revealed by the LEAP manifesto vote. Between resource-producing regions and urbanites, between unions, particularly in those industries, and environmentalists. Those kinds of divisions are pretty out in the open now, and certainly the division between the only government they've got in Alberta and the rest of the party was pretty stark.
Agree on that, Chantal?
I agree. There is a clear divide, not only between the Alberta government that is New Democrat, and now the federal party's directions, which are out in the open today. But the leaders of the parties that are going to be vying for power within the next 2 years in Ontario and British Columbia, shaking their heads over what's happening to the federal party, and the potential that it could get worse, because the federal caucus is made up largely not only of MPs from Quebec and British Columbia, where pipelines are not popular, as you know. And this opening that has now been practiced into what the party does about pipelines, those MPs could benefit from it in their home province versus the government of Alberta, but also the parties in the prairies and other areas of the country, New Brunswick, to name another place.
I should also say there's that age-old division of the party, also revealed here, between those who say we should stake out whatever it is we believe and let the chips fall where they may electorally, and those having had a look at power who'd like to get there sooner rather than later, and who think this will condemn them to the wilderness for many more years. One final note, just to correct myself, of course, there's still an NDP government in Manitoba as of today.
As of today. Not expected to do well in the election, but you never know with elections. You both referred to the open split, even clearer today, between the Alberta government and some members of the NDP, namely Stephen Lewis and his following. We saw a bit of it in Terry Malevsky's item a few moments ago. Here is that split echoed again here. Watch this.
The government of Alberta repudiates the sections of that document that address energy infrastructure. These ideas will never form any part of our policy. They are naive, they are ill-informed, and they are tone-deaf.
I am surprised that Rachel Notley would dismiss it so gratuitously. It takes me aback a little, but I understand her predicament. She's defending a government in Alberta which is under siege from the right wing, and she has to dissociate herself categorically.
All right, the document, of course, that they're talking about is the so-called LEAP manifesto. You heard a lot about it over the weekend. Is that the kind of argument we're going to see played out within the NDP over the next year, possibly 2 years, Chantal?
Yes. And it's going to be really hard to find a unifying figure to reconcile with our irreconcilable positions. No government in Alberta is going to say, let's keep oil in the ground, let's not have pipelines. And that was said clearly to the delegates on Saturday by Premier Notley. On the other hand, the provinces and some of the delegates were saying it after her speech. We loved her speech, said one delegate, but I'm from BC, where we get the pipeline to Tidewater, and I don't really want it. So you can see those strains and what they will do to the inside of that caucus. What makes it really awkward is, imagine in the House of Commons, who speaks for Alberta in the House of Commons in opposition after this? Is it the Conservatives? Whose position is closer to that of Premier Notley, or is it the NDP?
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, it might have been better in a sort of sense if they'd actually passed this as a resolution of the party. There's been a lot of people saying, well, we didn't adopt this, we just agreed to debate it. Well, parties adopt resolutions all the time that eventually are forgotten or stuffed down the memory hole. In this case, they're going to be debating it in every riding association by mandate of the party for the next 2 years. It's going to be a part, inevitably, of the leadership race to come. It's going to be front and center, causing more and more divisions for the party. Stephen Lewis rejects Rachel Notley's disagreement with it as gratuitous. This is a government in Alberta that has gone to extraordinary lengths, never before attempted by any previous government there, for understandable reasons, to try and make this more environmentally friendly, quite groundbreaking policy measures. And the selling point, of course, was that this was going to help achieve social license for the oil sands. Well, we've seen, at least within our own party, that's not the case.
We see clearly who this policy alienates. Who does it attract in terms of new members to the party, or who does it bring back to the party? What is the hope and the desire here on their part for this? Chantal?
Well, Quebec MPs will tell you that it could open a flank over this energy issue in the Liberal vote, and certainly would bring back some of the Bloc vote to the NDP. And Ontario NDP members would also say that it would differentiate them from Justin Trudeau. The problem is that it goes both ways. It could also send middle-of-the-road New Democrats to the Liberals.
Yeah, it will also probably not do too well for the Green Party. I would imagine they must be looking at this with some trepidation. I mean, they'll love the policy, but they'll lose a lot of their voters. It will rev up some sections of the NDP. It will make them more animated, more likely to go to the polls. But I agree with Chantal, it's also going to lose them votes to the Liberals.
It's interesting that in this discussion, since the first answer, we've never mentioned Tom Mulcair again. And I almost wonder, just as a closing thought here, that after election night, was there anything he could have done to have prevented what we eventually saw last night?
Take a side in this dispute. The people who voted him down did not just vote him down because of the election performance. They voted him down on the basis that nothing clear came out of his mouth after he lost. And this weekend, he lost on the Alberta side of the debate in that vote, and he lost on the Leap Manifesto side by straddling a fence that can't be straddled.
You get the last word, Andrew.
Well, Chantal was at the convention and I wasn't, but there's a dynamic that kicks in these types of settings where people who come in with maybe a vague sense of what they want to do get it confirmed by talking to a lot of other people. And that certainly was the sense one got, at least watching from afar, that was in the course of that convention, it seemed to solidify against him. I think by the time he gave his speech, it was too late, and the speech was not a very good one either.
All right, leave it at that. Chantal in Montreal, Andrew here in Toronto.